I'm Julie Szego, and welcome to the third in our video coverage of the criminal proceedings against former Adass School principal Malka Leifer. Today, the former principal was committed to stand trial in Melbourne's County Court on 70 indictable child sex offences alleged to have occurred between 2004 and 2008. The accusations relate to three sisters, all of them former students of the school. After the second week of the hearing in Melbourne's Magistrates Court, Johanna Metcalf, the magistrate, found the evidence was of sufficient weight to support a conviction and that the case should go to a jury. As the magistrate handed down her decision, Malka Leifer, appearing via video link from prison, kept her head down and her mouth covered in a posture that we saw throughout the hearing. Asked whether she pleaded guilty or not guilty, the 55-year-old looked up briefly and said, "No, not guilty." 4 of the initial 74 charges against Ms. Leifer were dismissed by the magistrate after it became apparent that they related to incidents that allegedly occurred in Israel and not in Melbourne. The defence did not apply for bail, and Ms. Leifer was ordered to appear at a directions hearing, which is a procedural hearing in the County Court on October the 21st. So this ruling comes after an epic 7-year-long legal battle to extradite Ms. Leifer from Israel, and after a hearing of almost 2 weeks, and on a day after 5 witnesses gave evidence. Now, I'm going to run you through some of that evidence that we heard on today, the last day of the hearing. But remember, we did not have access to the witness statements, which comprised the evidence in chief of these witnesses, but could only hear them being cross-examined in court. So that's why our reports of these proceedings are inevitably going to sound a bit skewed. One of those witnesses was Joshua Ehrlich, the former husband of Adass Ehrlich, one of the complainants. She and her sisters had already given evidence in closed court. Under questioning from Ms. Leifer's counsel, Ian Hill QC, Mr. Ehrlich revealed that for most of their marriage, which lasted from 2006 to 2011, Adass had expressed positive views about Ms. Leifer, referring to her as a mother figure. He said his wife was disappointed that Ms. Leifer could not attend their wedding in September 2006, and that in the month afterwards, the couple stayed at Ms. Leifer's home in Melbourne. He said Adass repeatedly told him the sisters enjoyed going to school as it offered them respite from their mother, who he agreed was described as controlling. The court today also heard allegations that the mother was violent towards her daughters, and I'll return to that material soon. Mr. Ehrlich said his wife started displaying disturbing behaviour shortly after the couple moved to Israel in 2007. He believed she was depressed at the time. She began confiding in a social worker, Hannah Rabinowitz, who also appeared as a witness in these proceedings, who had also previously counselled students from the Adass Israel school. Mr. Ehrlich told the court about overhearing a midnight phone call in around January 2008 from Adass to her sister, Nicole. He said Adass seemed very worried that Miss Rabinowitz was taking a comment she had made about her relationship with Mrs. Leifer in such a serious way and had tried to persuade her not to do anything about it. Mr. Ehrlich said, "I distinctly remember the way she was speaking was a rather panicked tone." He said he wasn't aware of the details of Mrs. Leifer allegedly hugging or rubbing Adass's thigh. He said, "I remember at the time, I didn't find it particularly concerning if she had said it. If she had said it was under the clothes or something of that nature, I would have been concerned, but I don't remember her saying anything like that to me." He said that in 2011, just before the couple divorced, and by which time they were back living in Australia, he heard Dussie and Nicole making a plan to harass Miss Leifer. He said, "I heard them saying they wanted to call her up to cause her problems, and they were laughing about it." At this point, Mr. Hill asked him if they were literally laughing, as if it was a fun and exciting thing to do. And he said, "That was my sense, yes." Afterwards, in re-examination, the prosecutor, Nanette Rogers, SC, asked if it was after this phone call that Dussie had made her statement to police, and Mr. Ehrlich said yes, it was. Earlier, the court had heard from Vicky Gordon, a Melbourne psychologist. She gave evidence that she'd been in communications with Miss Rabinovitz, the counsellor from Israel, about the allegations against Miss Leifer, and that she then informed senior rabbinical figures and Adass Israel board members about those allegations. She said she was present at critical meetings that took place with these people on the 3rd and the 4th of March 2008. And she was also there when Miss Leifer was told by phone that she was being dismissed as Adass Israel principal. On the 10th of March, she had the first of what would be weekly therapeutic sessions with Ellie Sapper, then 18, another of the complainants who had been referred to her practice. Mr. Hill then referred to Ellie Sapper's evidence in court that from the time she was 3, her mother, that is the Sapper's mother, would subject her to beatings, and Miss Gordon confirmed that Ellie had told her the same thing during their sessions. The court also heard from Sharon Bromberg, a teacher at the Adass School since 1982. She agreed with Mr. Hill's assertions that Malka Leifer was regarded by staff as a committed, hardworking principal who gave much of herself to teachers and students. She said Ms. Leifer would help young teachers themselves. Some of them were themselves former students of the school to prepare the lessons. Sometimes that help took place at Malka Leifer's home, and at the time and in that context, this was all considered quite normal. The court also heard from Esther Spiegelman, the head of general studies at the high school from 2003 to 2008, who told of her shock when learning that Miss Leifer was dismissed from her position as principal. And the last witness to be cross-examined in court today was the police informant. Thanks for joining us in our coverage of this case. It's a case that's made global headlines and been at times not just a legal battle, but a cause of political friction between Australia and Israel. In a sense, though, this is just the first chapter. We'll continue to keep you informed of developments. Thank you.